Tennessee Titans fans, welcome to this week's edition of Should the Tennessee Titans Bench Will Levis? Since we last had this conversation last week, the Titans have lost another football game. They're 0-3. Will Levis threw another pick six and was sacked 8 times. He was not good enough. And here we are again. Now, the last time we talked about this, I was using the Carolina Panthers as an example. I thought it was stupid to bench Bryce Young for Andy Dalton, but it feels goofy to say that now because the Panthers looked like a new team on Sunday. Andy Dalton played great and they won. Time will tell if it's ultimately the right decision for the organization, because if Andy Dalton gets you to 6-11 or 7-10, what have you really gotten? You've got a worse draft pick. Andy Dalton's not the future of the organization, and you're done with Bryce Young, who you traded up to number 1 to get. So, I mean, I think it could still prove to be a bad decision, but it's hard to say that at this time because they looked so good with Dalton on Sunday. So time will tell. But I also see the argument from people talking about the Panthers issue. They say, hey, Dave Canellis is a first-time head coach there in Carolina. They looked horrible. He's got to get the locker room back. He's got to win games early in his coaching career. It's important to do that. He, along with the GM, decided that Andy Dalton was a better option. I get that. I totally get that argument. Bryce Young was horrible. I get it. And my dog gets it too, if you can hear him. Now, how that relates to the Titans, it's kind of similar. Brian Callahan is also first-time head coach. Brian Callahan also needs to start winning games. Brian Callahan also doesn't need to lose the locker room. And Brian Callahan's also got a Andy Dalton-esque type guy at backup in Mason Rudolph. So I see the similarities. I don't think Will Levis has been as bad as Bryce Young was. And I still don't think it's time to bench him. But I will also say this. The pick six that he threw against Green Bay, which was early in the game, it completely took the wind out of the sails of this Titans team. And I would imagine it's because he did it in week 1. He did something very similar in week 2, and then he did it again in week 3. I would imagine it is pretty discouraging if you are another guy on this team to see that happen again. I mean, yeah, you started seeing guys hanging their head. Quarterback's the most important position on the team. And so I will say I don't think it's time to bench him. But with a bye week looming and your most winnable game left on the schedule coming up this Monday night in Miami, I mean, the Dolphins looked horrible on Sunday against Seattle. I don't know what the heck their quarterback position is. I don't know who the heck's going to be playing for them. It's your most winnable game left on the schedule. If you lose that, and especially if he looks bad, you go 0-4 and then you've got a bye week to try and have discussions about what to do. I mean, I don't think they would do it. I certainly don't see the merit in it right now, but there are some of you who think that Mason Rudolph could provide a spark for this team. I don't know. We'll see after Monday night. I still don't think it's time to do it. And I also think you have to keep this in mind too. I'm not here to do PR for Will Levis. I'm not here to tell you that he's actually been good and everything's okay. No. I'll also say, though, and I said it Sunday after the game, if you're blaming all of this on Will Levis and you're putting it all on him, you are letting a lot of people off the hook. The offensive line's been horrible. J.C. Latham at left tackle, their first-round pick, he's actually been really good. Skoronski at left guard, so-so. The center, Lloyd Cushenberry's been good. Right side of the offensive line, especially the right tackle, has been horrible. And that's, he was sacked 8 times. He's been the most pressured, one of the most pressured quarterbacks through the league in 3 weeks. So that's part of it too. The defense was terrible on Sunday against Green Bay. Malik Willis just shredded in every way possible. So that's part of it too. The play calling I don't think has been a big issue, but there's more than just him. He gets all the headlines because he's the quarterback, but there's more than just him, playing badly. There's a lot of people who need to play better, not just him, but him included. I think that if anything this year has proven, it is that organizations and coaching matters. That's what scares me the most, because look at Justin Fields. In Chicago, he was playing behind a horrible offensive line. He looked bad. He goes to Pittsburgh, and all of a sudden it's clicking. It's just a better situation, you know? And look at Malik Willis going to Green Bay. He's got a better offensive line. You know, Matt LaFleur, I think, is one of the best coaches in the league. Better offensive line, better coaching, better scheme for him, better culture. And that should be a wake-up call for the Tennessee Titans' entire organization to put Will Levis or any young quarterback in a position to succeed. I'm not out on Brian Callahan. I think Brian Callahan's really not even in the top 5 of my biggest worries right now. But Will Levis is, and I don't see the merit in pulling him right now. Some of you have wanted to pull him since week 1. But I will just say it could get interesting if the Titans lose Monday night in Miami, because that would be 2 straight losses right there to Malik Willis and whoever, Skylar Thompson. That would be an awful way to end this first month of the season. So if you go into the bye 0-4, and especially if Will Levis plays bad, could get interesting. The conversations that you would have an entire week to have over that bye week could get interesting. I don't think they would do it, because I think, and like I said last week, I think at the end of the year, you got to know. Before you make your decision, you got to know, is this guy it or is he not? And I think you give him every opportunity you can, so at least you can be rest assured at the end, we gave him a shot, he didn't do it. I also think, looking down the pipe, I mean, the Titans have proven that they're not very good at developing young quarterbacks. And so I don't know what the answer would be if Will Levis is not the guy. Do you go try to draft somebody else? Is there anybody you're that excited about coming out of this upcoming draft? Or do you just try to do what Minnesota or Seattle's done and go get a guy? I mean, is Pittsburgh interested in getting rid of Russell Wilson? I know some people are wanting to throw their phones across the room just hearing that suggestion. But I don't think it's time to bench Will Levis right now. But I do understand that Brian Callahan is in a similar situation that Dave Canellis in Carolina was. I got to start winning games. I'm a first-time head coach. I got a lot of veteran players here that are looking to me. The pressure's on. Will Levis repeatedly hurting this team. He's not the only one, but he's one of them. I can see the argument eventually that says, okay, this is a disaster. We've got to do something different. You know, so we'll see. Maybe that's an offensive line move. Maybe you go get somebody off of a practice squad to come play offensive line. There's probably somebody on a practice squad somewhere that's better than the guys we've got there. So, I don't know. Let me know what you think. What's the leash on Will Levis looking like for you guys?